Who's here?
She's here,
Doris Dear.
It's Doris with a cocktail in hand. She's the perfect housewife. This one might have a man.
The doll? Well, maybe.
It's Doris and her dear friends. They live up in the sky. Before the chance to sing and dance, her friends might also buy. It's Doris. It's Doris Dear. She's that girl on the street. She'll show up with a sweet. You'll adore when she knocks on your door. What's her fun? It's Doris Dear's Girl Talk.
Hi dears, welcome back to Doris Dear's Girl Talk. I'm your hostess, Doris Dear, otherwise known as America's Perfect Housewife. Good to see you back in the rumpus room. Today we continue our deep dive into Miss Arlene Dahl's book, Always Ask a Man, Arlene Dahl's Key to Femininity. Oh, I'm learning so much, are you? Now, you might not be familiar with her, but according to her book jacket, Arlene Dahl is an internationally famed motion picture, television, and stage star who also writes a thrice-weekly syndicated beauty column which reaches 30 million readers. Known as one of the most beautiful women in the world herself, she has always been eager to help other women achieve their full potential of feminine appeal. So sit back and let's go back to 1965. Enlarge your mental horizons by taking up new interests, new hobbies, new challenges. But never let your own interests override your husband's. Let his job, his hobby, and his interests come first. There should be nothing that takes precedence in your day's schedule over making yourself attractive and appealing for the man in your life. Service groups, bridge clubs, children's activities, social events, well, they're all a part of demands made upon a wife and mother. But nothing is more important than keeping your husband happy, interested, and in love with you. So, remember, gals, if you don't acquiesce to your husband, he may not love you. Oh, 1965. And now, her advice on how married men and women should interact. Now, might be a good time to take a little sip of that cocktail. I believe also that marriage is not a place for Victorian attitudes. Anything that a husband and wife share, interests or actions, which increases their enjoyment and understanding of each other, is right and good. There are no set rules. A woman should wish to please her man in all ways and be able to do so. Think of the positions Miss Dahl must have used over the years. Well, sounds like maybe she went to those underground clubs we've all heard about over the water cooler. Oh, and I'm guessing self-pleasing is not really allowed. Now, she also makes a suggestion about a certain type of exercise. Listen up. Contract the lazy internal muscles, as well as those of the buttocks. Well, do this whenever you can, sitting at the typewriter, before television, in a car, or reading. Developing these muscles will make it possible for you to be more responsive and pleasing to your husband. I'm contracting mine right now. No wonder she had 5 husbands. Now, Taffy and Duke were really a couple people loved to be around. Both were quite something to look at. I remember watching them be in love. Well, they were really something to see. And they truly respected each other and what they did. They seemed to have a healthy bedroom life as well. Well, considering my sister and I, well, we would listen at their door from what I remember. They may have played their traditional role of husband and wife in public, but, well, Duke never minded when Taffy wore the pants. Now, we'll have some more wonderful musings from Miss Dahl in our next episode. So mix a great cocktail, sit back and get comfy, and, well, be transported back to 1965 with Doris and Miss Arlene Dahl. And don't forget, you can find all these stories on my website at www.dorisdear.com/girl, GURL-talk, all one word. Oh, who could that be?
Doris!
And I'm here.
Okay, masks off. Fresh air. We're safe. We're all COVID safe here
Yes.
at Doris Dear's Rumpus Room. Welcome to the Rumpus Room.
Thank you. I'm
Oliver
happy to be here.
Reid.
This is
It's
wonderful.
So great to see you.
You know, this is my favorite color.
Oh, this is?
I love this sort of like marigold yellow. It makes me very happy.
Well, and it brings a beautiful light to one's complexion, darling. And at
Delightful,
my
delightful.
age, I need all the beautiful light I can get. That and a good fuzzy filter. So today we're having a special cocktail. You know, here in the Rumpus Room, we drink even during the day. So I create... This season, we are saluting old Hollywood stars and drinks that were named after them in the 30s. So this is a drink from 1932. It is the Douglas Fairbanks. And I chose this for you. Well, we'll talk about that later, but it's very special. So cheers and welcome to the Rumpus Room.
Thank you, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Well, I might have to have a second little sip of it.
Well, that's nice.
Wow, I love day drinking.
What? Listen, it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Yes,
So
it is somewhere.
What's in this?
Oh, well, there's a concoction of many things that are delicious together.
That's tasty.
If you stay tuned, you'll get that on the next segment. Yes, at the bar,
Delightful.
when we go to the bar cart. Okay. T. Oliver Reid.
Yes.
Native of small town Gastonia, North Carolina. You're a
Correct.
Southern boy.
I am.
Wow.
I like calling North Carolina home. That was a song that was a commercial when I was growing up. It was on at least once a day, and it really summed up for me, like just growing up in the South.
Well, I just realized that you do have that Southern lilt. There's a little bit of Southern lilt. I never really clicked with me, but
It only happens when I have something to drink, so
Well-
that one hit me hard apparently.
when you're taking down a little Douglas Fairbanks.
Oh yes, well.
Now you began singing in the choir of St. Stephen's Zion Church.
Yes.
Wow, or choir. You know, it's so funny because, you know, as an artist, and I'm a singer, well, according to whoever you talk to, although I am a 3-time MAC award, darling. Yeah, the most important award.
Well.
But I never did, you know, I'm a little Catholic from Staten Island. We didn't have choirs. We just didn't. And I often think, God, because I'm terrible at parts. I just am. I'm terrible at parts, and I always think, oh, if we only had a choir, I would have been able to sing that damn baritone line.
I had no choice. Like literally, my entire family is musical, except for one uncle and one brother. Everybody else in the family sings, and we always sang in church. And literally, for me, it was starting to sing it probably like, from what I've been told, like 3 or 4 years old. I was already starting to sing. So I literally went from soprano to alto to tenor to bass in the choir, so I could sing any part depending on how old I was.
Well, that's like a perfect date. I'm just saying. It's kind of nice.
It's not bad, I tell you.
Now, you have you have such an extensive Broadway career. I mean, it's extensive. 14 Broadway shows?
13.
13.
Yeah.
Okay, so Chicago, Kiss Me Kate, Follies, Thoroughly Modern Millie, Never Gonna Dance, La Cage Aux Folles, The Wedding Singer, Mary Poppins, Sister Act, and After Midnight, Sunset Boulevard, Once on This Island, and now Hadestown.
Hadestown, yes.
So, you come to New York. What was your first Broadway show?
Oh, okay, it depends. First official was Kiss Me Kate. My first production contract was Chicago, and after I left the tour, I came back to cover Mary Sunshine for a couple of weeks. But I don't consider that the first show. I still consider Kiss Me Kate, because Kiss Me Kate was the first sort of big experience,
With
like
an
full
opening.
opening night and all that. Yeah.
And so I always ask, I mean, like, when we're in musical theater, of course, the dream, I want to be in a Broadway show.
Yeah.
And what was that like? I mean, does it ever, you know, I think it's so many times as artists, we never, like, take a moment to enjoy what the heck is happening to us. Was that moment, like, was that a big moment for you? What was that?
No, it was a very big moment, but it's also, I had a feeling of what was going on, so it wasn't something that I overlooked any moment of. Like with Kiss Me Kate, like the audition process, I was in the room with like Michael Buress and Darren Lee and all these men who were, these were the Broadway guys. So I remember being in that room and going, oh, you're in the room with the big the big guys know.
Yeah.
So that started that, and like for the callbacks, I wasn't new to New York, didn't know anything. So I was like, okay, so this morning I'm not going to get on the train. I was living way out in Brooklyn by Brooklyn College. I was like, I'm going to get in a cab. And so I would get there and I'm going to be really relaxed. And I gave the cab driver the address, like whatever Chelsea Studios is, whatever 150 West 28th Street. He takes me to 150 West 28th Street in Brooklyn. Oh. And I remember getting down and going, this doesn't look like this place.
This isn't Broadway.
And literally like calling, like, I don't know where I am. And they're like, you're in Brooklyn. Getting in a cab to go into the city, and Vinny lived calling me on the phone. It's like, you got to get here. Whatever time you get here, just get here. Me changing into a dance belt in the back of a cab so that I was there and ready to get in. But I got there late and like got the combination and booked the job. And then,
Wow.
but the show with like, with Maren Maisie and Brian Stokes Mitchell and
Amazing.
and, it's just it was a spectacular cast and the perfect show group of people to be a part of your first show with.
That's
like, 'cause
amazing.
it was all about learning. Like both Maren and especially like Stokes would come by. He would come to every dressing room at some point in the week because he wanted to make sure everyone was good.
But now, of course, I'm forever going to think of you as putting on a dance belt in the back of a cab. That's it. We're stopping. The interview's done.
Listen, that was the first time I did it, and then many years for Broadway the Broadway Bears, and the G-string is like I hung
It's
on
a
my
habit.
G-string. It apparently is a habit.
It's a habit. Okay. Now I want to talk. You have gotten. There is something called now. It's called the Legacy Robe. It used to be called the Gypsy Robe.
Yes.
You have got 3 times. And
So, yeah.
I think you got for The Wedding Singer in 2006.
Yes.
You got it for Hadestown in 2019.
Yeah.
In 2013. Now I read this online, and online
It's
is not
true.
always right.
But this is true.
So they gave it to you, but you said no, and you declined the honor, and you gave it to
Rosina Hill Jackson.
Hill
yes.
Jackson.
But here's the thing.
What?
But somebody then said that Rosina didn't have the next most shows, so they got upset because she got it. It's just it's a whole thing. But
always drama, darling.
well, it's like for me, it's like I had gotten it the first time, and I thought that was great. But it was like when she said that she wanted it, it just sort of felt like, okay, somebody else wants it. Let's give someone else a chance to have it. I've done it. It's great. But this time I didn't do that for Hadestown because I didn't want the same thing that happened on After Midnight to happen again.
Is
But,
it worth all that drama?
Exactly.
Now, Hadestown. So, I mean, so you're the dance captain at Hadestown?
I am the dance captain at Hadestown.
Wow.
I like to stay busy.
That is, like, I always say, like, people who are like the dance captain or the swing, those are like the hardest job. People have no idea. You have to know everything.
Yeah.
I can barely know where I'm walking to go to the drugstore. No less to know all those parts and understand that. That's unbelievable. Now, have you been a dance captain before?
Only on Once in This Island, the show before, but that was it.
Which I saw you in when you stepped into the role of...
Father Tonton Julian.
Yes.
Wait, were you there the day that I actually stepped in and like tagged him out and he left stage on that and I stepped right in?
No.
Oh, we had a show. He was starting to not feel well at the top of the show, so he's like, yeah, I don't think I'm gonna be able to make it. So I go in to get in costume, and we're trying to figure out when we're gonna get him out of there. And went to blackout. I walked on stage. You're out. And went out. One guy came back. Another guy. It's
like who's that?
Yeah. But that was the first time I had dance captained.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you were amazing in that show.
Thank you.
And
Thanks.
so Hadestown, it opens, it's running, and COVID.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was that like? What is that? Right now we're sitting in a rumpus room, Doris Dear's rumpus room, in an artist building.
Yeah.
This is an artist building. It's full of Broadway people. It dancers, singers, pit musicians. There's models.
Yeah.
There's everybody. I mean, and I talk to these people all the time. I mean, what was that moment like at Hadestown, and what has it been like?
That moment, we were actually in a put-in rehearsal. We were at that point where a lot of the principal contracts were up, and we were figuring out some things. So Amber, who plays Persephone, is going on a either 6 or 7 show week as opposed to doing all 8 new contract. So we were getting like her new understudy ready, as well as Carney was going to be out for the first time. In a full year, he had never missed a show. So he was going on vacation with Eva, John Krause, who's his understudy, was finally going on. We were putting 2 new swings into the show. We were on stage having a rehearsal, and like at 4 o'clock that Thursday afternoon, I guess it was, Mara Isaacs, our producer, and Beverly Edwards, our general manager, came in and were like, so Broadway is going to shut down for about 4 weeks. We'll be back on April 12th. And we're all sitting there and we're like, oh, wait, first, John's family is here to see the show. And he showed up and so, hugged and cried and all of that. And then went over to Glass House Tavern because we're like, oh, we have 4 weeks that we're going to see each other. Let's go have a drink.
Yeah.
And then it was that weekend that it was like, oh, this is big. This is much more than we've been told. And, maybe that next week we found out, okay, it's going to be longer than a month.
Right.
And honestly, I think there are things that are still setting in. Like,
yeah, here we are a year later.
Who
would have ever?
Who would have ever thought that theater would have been shut down this way? And also the amount of time it's going to take to get it, not only just back up and running, but to get people and our bodies ready to do that. Because...
Right, so there's always this discussion online, especially about, and I will say I have a few arguments, it's always about keeping the audience safe. And I always say, have you ever been backstage at a Broadway theater? These theaters were built in like 1930.
Yeah.
People are on top of each other. You're getting changed in a little cubicle that they put drapes around. Everybody's touching props.
There is dust on top of pipes that have been there for 25 years.
Yeah.
It's like, that's clean.
Like, that's the conversation. That's the conversation that you never really see people talking about in the public forums. And, it's going to be very difficult. And I have to say...
It's going to be different.
But I have to say, before we go any further, Jack Vertel's a very close friend of mine. And so we all met. By the way... we got to know each other in Alabama.
That is very true. Yes.
So I was on a production team with Margot.
Yes.
Margot Astrakhan, the amazing Margot Astrakhan. Yes. I love you. And Jack was dramaturging. We brought you down to do one of the parts.
Yes.
We were doing a developmental of a new musical, and I got to... I was a new commercial producer. Margot was so generous with her time and teaching and all of that. And it was a very interesting time in Alabama. And Jack was there. And Jack and I have become like best friends. We have a drink every week online. And he said to me, you tell him that he is one of the best performers. He is the nicest guy. He is number one. And I have to tell you that.
Thank you. I think the same of him. But it's also been, again, for me, it's been like the people that I'm able to call like friends or mentors. Jack Vertel is one. Like anytime, I email him and say, Jack, I just want to talk to you about something. All right, call me. I'm up at the house. Or do you want to do before pandemics? Like, do you want to come over to the office and sit down and talk?
Yeah.
And it's been great because for me, it's so much more about. It's always been about like the full industry and not just sort of being on this number on stage, but really learning about things. It's why, for me, being a swing was easier being a dance captain because, when I was young, the first show I ever did was Shenandoah. Oh. I was Gabriel, slave boy, the 9-year-old slave boy in the musical, and even then, it's I learned every role. Because I didn't know not to, so I was just I'd watch and I knew everyone's lines.
And why not?
Why not? So it's for me that has held on to this point. So now when I watch a show, it's we're going here and we're doing that, and then that person's doing that. So it's made it a little easier, but
yeah. I'm a process person, which is why I started producing.
Yeah.
I was on television. I started producing on television because you sit around for so long. So I'd go in the booth and watch how they did things, and I'd learn to direct and I learned to produce. I'm a process. I want to know it all because why wouldn't I?
Exactly.
I have the time. It's not I'm so busy. I mean,
but even if you are busy, it's good to know those.
And
other
it's enriching.
Things.
To understand. When someone says, we have to cut your number, or we don't like how that's going, instead of internalizing it, the process, so you understand it's not about me. Yeah. It's about the process and the overall of everything.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, I do want to talk to you about two things. One is the Dear White American Theater letter that went out concerning people of color and Broadway theater especially. And then also you started the Black Theater Coalition with Reggie Van Lee. Is that correct?
Yes.
So this has been a very interesting time. We had Black Lives Matter into COVID, into like it's a whole crazy thing.
Yeah.
So talk to me about that. First of all, the Dear White American Theater was a, for those who don't know, you can look it up. Google is your friend. It's an amazing letter signed by hundreds of
a lot of people.
Actors, not just actors of color, but actors of all colors, talking about the problem on Broadway and about the color of people of color and the professional theater, commercial theater, and then you started the Black Theater Coalition. So let's talk to me about that. Talk to me about that letter, how it made you feel, and then why did you start the Black Coalition?
I'm trying to think of the best order to start it in. So my two co-founders, Reggie Van Lee and Warren Adams. Warren and I had met a couple years ago. A mutual friend of ours, Eric Summers, had gotten very sick, and we kept seeing each other at the hospital. And so I said to him one day, it's like, I have this idea and I want to talk to you about it. And the initial idea was a sort of performance series, very much like Encores at City Center. One of the many conversations that Jack and I had about theater, but to do something that was really for us, by us. So not only Black and brown bodies on stage, but all of those areas, those creative areas, those management areas, administrative areas, to make sure that there are Black professionals in those. So not only producing and general management, but directing, choreographing, lighting, sound, set design, casting, everything. And as we started looking at a 5 or 10 year plan, we was like, there aren't enough people in some of these areas that we won't be just reusing and recycling people every show after show. And that's kind of where we are right now. We didn't want to do that same thing. So it's like, what do we do next? And we realized we have to make sure there's room for Black artists, Black professionals to be in certain rooms, get certain opportunities that maybe they aren't getting now. So we looked at the idea of internships, and we realized we wanted to strike that and strike that word from our vocabulary, because normally an internship means someone's not being paid or being paid very little. So we don't want to deal with that. But to look at apprenticeships and fellowships and what those could look like and what those would mean, so that a young sound designer who has not had an opportunity to work on Broadway, but they've worked in the regions or they worked off Broadway, and we all know that that jump from off Broadway to Broadway is much larger than people think. So to have someone who's had the experience work with, say, an Evan Steinberg or a Peter Hylinski, and be in the room sort of watching them and working with them, so that then the next show that a producer is producing or a director is directing to say, oh, I remember this person, they worked with Peter on this show. We should make sure that we at least interview them for the next thing we're doing, so that they are then in that circle, that pool of people who are working in this area.
Because that's how it works. It's about relationships.
Absolutely.
You don't work in commercial theater because there's so much money unless there's a relationship.
Yeah.
Unless people know who you are, have seen you do your art. And so you're creating these relationships.
That is the goal, to make sure that over these next years that it is truly about creating those relationships and those opportunities. Our goal is by 2030 to increase the number of Black professionals working in every area by 500%. That's 5 people. That's all it is. 5 people in each of those areas.
It's crazy that we talk in terms like this. It's unbelievable to me in this day and age that that's a thing.
But we're still there, and the data doesn't lie. So you have to hold on to that so that we can say this is where we are now, and this is where we want to get to.
Right.
So that we can make those changes. So that's where we are with Black Theater Coalition and the
Well, I
fellowships
just
and
want to say,
apprenticeships.
it says your mission is to replace the illusion of inclusion.
Yeah.
And I think that's fantastic.
Thank you.
I think that's a really great phrase because when people think of commercial theater, because that's what Broadway is, they think, well, there's people of color up there. What's the big deal?
Exactly.
There's a gay person over there. What's the big deal? There's an Asian person over there. They're in it.
Yeah.
No, they're not.
No. Well, they're on the stage.
They're on the stage.
They're not in positions of making the art, of creating the art, of writing the checks. They're only cashing the check. And although if that's where your career leads you and that's what you want, that's great. But we want to make sure that there are people who look like the world around us, who are producing, who are general managing, who are directing, so that the stories that we're telling will reflect that. I don't think we're in an age where we are looking at a Rodgers and Hammerstein and they are doing, 2 shows a year for a decade. We want to make sure that there are so many more opportunities for playwrights and directors and all those design areas, but also for casting, because that is a huge thing. Those casting agents really decide what a look of a show is going to look like by who's brought into the room for the director. So to make sure there are people of all colors working in those areas. Our organization clearly is Black Theater Coalition, and my rule is always this: put the oxygen mask on yourself first, then help somebody else. So that's what that is.
That's amazing.
We could have thrown tentacles all over the place, but then do we really get the work done? Or if we really focus in here knowing that, our Asian brothers and sisters are working in this area, that our Latin brothers and sisters are working over here, and at some point we'll find those intersections where we can all begin to work together.
Right.
That's
but you're talking about artists being focused? Now that's, honey, that's a reach.
Let's figure it out.
Now, what about the Dear White American Theater? I mean, obviously, it became a big story.
Yeah.
It was put out there, big story. What's the feelings on that?
It was put out there. It was necessary for me and my thinking. For every movement, there has to be the protest. So someone has to be shouting first to get the attention, and I think that's what that letter did.
Right.
It got everyone's attention. It really sort of galvanized people in a way to say, we have to look at this. We have to really look at this and not just pay lip service to it. So from there, for us, is like the difference between We See White American Theater and that letter and what BTC is doing is like we are now about the action. We support you in the screaming here and the loud and getting the attention here, and the fire burning is not the right word, but you know what I mean. But the getting everyone's attention here so that then the active steps can then begin to happen.
Which is how all rights, protests, everything have happened. I mean, I've been marching my whole darn life. Yeah. I mean, and
but
screaming.
that first part scares people, and that is exactly what has happened. I think there's so many people who got scared over it as opposed to saying, "Oh yeah." They're causing us to look at this so that we can now say, now what do we do?
Right, and hopefully it's not just lip service.
Absolutely.
I mean, now we need action. Mm-hmm. So hopefully we're back soon, or than later. I mean, I don't know, fall, winter, whatever it takes. I mean, I think people also forget how much money is involved in getting people back on those stages. Yeah. It's $1 million, $2 million to remount a big musical.
And that's the thing, like a few months ago, maybe 6 months ago even, they were saying, it's like, oh yeah, it'll be 3 weeks of rehearsal, we'll get people back in. It's like, who do you think remembers their lines or their choreography? Nobody.
And whose bodies are ready to go to 8 shows a week?
Exactly.
I mean, that is like unbelievable that your body has to be trained for that. Your voice has to be trained. You can't just hop back up and do it.
But that's the thing. I think there was that moment of like, oh, we'll just be able to get back in. Just like, no. It's going to take time. It's going to take time physically and emotionally for us to be in rooms together again. It's going to take time to figure out. It's like for those of us who have, expanded a little bit to figure out what that means for the costumes. And then that means that we have to make sure that the costume shops and the person who does the beading and the person who does all these things, they're back in those shops too, because we've just lost some people either because of COVID and the pandemic and death, or because they're like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm finally have a reason to leave New York. I'm going back to Texas to be with my family.
Well, absolutely. And I've talked to many people in SAG-AFTRA actors who I think we both know as artists. Yeah. We're both very lucky. We've worked basically I've been full-time 42 years. Yeah. I mean, I couldn't have asked for more, but we all know there are times in your life as an artist where you think, is this really what I want to do? Yeah. Can I make it through the ups and downs? Is it worth it? Yeah. Now, both of us have been lucky, but there are many people that because of COVID hit that way early.
Absolutely.
And have said, nah, it's over a year now. Yeah. I'm done. I'm moving on. I've got to go learn to be a nurse. I'm going to be a hairdresser, barber, whatever. And I always say, I've said this many times to many people, there's no such thing as failure. Whatever we do in life, it's all good. Take the experience, move on. There's no failures. Yeah. If you got one show, if you were in stage once, that's fantastic.
Everything for me, and I think I agree. I believe the same, very similar to what you're saying. It's like everything is the learning step to the next thing. It's a part of the process of getting to whatever the end is going to be. It's not. Yeah, there is no failure. It's like this is the learning lesson for the next.
Some of those steps are a little hard.
Well, listen,
especially in a heel. But on that note, I say cheers.
Cheers.
Welcome to the Rumpus Room. Thank you for your stories, your time, and good luck with everything.
Thank you.
And
It's a pleasure to be
hopefully we
here.
see you on stage very soon.
I hope so.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Welcome to the Bar Cart, the place where we make the cocktails we drink here in the Rumpus Room. Now on today's show, we enjoyed a smooth cocktail named after one of the biggest stars in Hollywood history. So continuing our salute to drinks named after Hollywood stars, I present a new favorite, the Doris Dear Douglas Fairbanks. Now, Hedda Hopper, the original gossip columnist, in her 1952 autobiography, From Under My Hat, said, "You can talk about your stars and their talents, but Douglas Fairbanks had something none of the rest ever possessed. It was a combination of good manners, looks, athletic skill, and extroverted charm. Doug loved everybody, and his infectious grin and easy way made everybody love him." I think Hedda had a crush. He was one of Hollywood's founding fathers, and in 1919, together with his best friend Charlie Chaplin, his bride-to-be Mary Pickford, and director D.W. Griffith, he started the United Artists Studio. In 1927, Fairbanks was a founding member of the Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences, the Oscars, and hosted its first prize-winning ceremony in 1929. Doug helped to financially support the project of Grauman's Chinese Theater in Hollywood and raised other important developments to improve movie production. Fairbanks demonstrated markedly progressive attitudes to race. In other films of the era, offensive racial terms and characterizations are depressingly familiar, but Fairbanks scoured his scripts for all such terms before production began, and he had them all removed. Good for him. He was apparently more than comfortable with public nudity. Him and Ben Franklin. When he and Mary Pickford built their studio complex in early 1920, complete with a fully fitted gymnasium, exercise yard, and steam room, while Fairbanks requested an underground running track so he could jog naked between scenes. The concrete-lined trench ran parallel to Santa Monica Boulevard for about 2 blocks, but 6 feet below the road. Sounds like a club I used to frequent. He was one of the silent-era film stars who's risked life and limb doing their own stunts, and was a true star. So to honor the great Hollywood personality, I present to you the Doris Dear Douglas Fairbanks. Now, we're going to combine in a shaker full of ice about 1.5 ounces of good gin. About 1 ounce of apricot brandy. I love that. Some fresh lime juice. Ding. We're going to shake that up and do our little COVID workout. I'm exhausted already. And we're going to strain that into a beautiful coupe glass. Very reminiscent of the fabulous Hollywood days. Oh, look at that. Isn't that nice? And of course, we're going to garnish that with a little bit of a lemon twist. Ha! Cheers! Well, I hope you enjoyed your stay in the Rumpus Room today. I love when friends drop by and, well, we bring a little bit of joy to the world. And don't forget, you can come by my website at www.dorisdear.com and see all the hints and recipes from today's show. I hope you'll come back to the Rumpus Room, and remember, a dress doesn't get you anywhere. It's the life you live in the dress that matters. Cheers. Oh, that's good. Where's my stunt person? I'm ready for my Academy Award. Well, okay.
It's Doris Dear.